I think it'd be nice if people dug maybe a little deeper into why I left school.
So as you can tell, my guest today is Lexi Kaz. She is a publisher, and she's only 23 years old. So I want to make sure we hit that topic pretty quick.
I think deep down I really was unhappy, but my brain didn't want to give up on my dream at the time. But I feel like there's always a force that will push you in a direction. No part of me, I never let the thought even cross my mind about leaving my soccer scholarship. But the universe and COVID and my life had other plans. And yet I'm so grateful that it happened because I wouldn't be where I am today. And I feel I have gained so much knowledge because of that situation. You know, I think it was a great lesson though for me that I have to listen to what my gut is saying, because it was saying it all along.
You know, there's a reason for everything, as you said, and the obstacle is the way.
Yes.
We talked about earlier.
Yep.
And I think you've proven that it was the right move, and the universe and God was leading you in the right direction. Welcome to Unlocking Moves, where we want to cover those key pivotal moments and decision points that really change the lives of successful entrepreneurs and leaders. And I want to hear stories, because I think we learn the best from stories. But I don't want to hear just your glory stories. I want to hear your gory stories, because as I like to say, the bigger the shit show, the bigger the lesson. And I'm very excited about my guest today because she has some great stories. First of all, she was a college dropout who found an online course for $100 that really made her into a future all-star publisher. And we're going to get into all that with Lexi Kaz. But she also discovered me and my massive following when she saw the Poppy episode with Allison and Stephen Ellsworth in this very studio that I'll get into a little bit during the episode. But before we do, Lexi, I like to hit my guests up with an off-the-wall question or comment to really keep them on their toes, keep my audience on their toes. You ready for this?
Sure.
All right, perfect. So when you were a kid, 5 years old, you sold Legos on eBay. Mm-hmm. You also sold iPhones, as I understand it, a little bit later in your entrepreneurial career when you were maybe 8. Tell me the background on that, because that's an amazing, 5 years old selling Legos and iPhones on eBay.
Yeah, well, first off, great to be here, Kurt. Thank you for having me. Yeah, so I remember I was sitting in my mom's work chair, desktop, had eBay on. I don't know how I stumbled upon it, or I know my aunt growing up always encouraged me to resell things, and we sold a lot together, but I don't remember the initial spark. I do remember where I was in the chair of, my mom's desk, and I had picked out from my room, I collected Legos at the time, Lego people, not just bricks, but I was very much in love with purchasing Lego people. And so I put it up on eBay, and I remember I put Batman and Robin for 99 cents on eBay, and I just watched the bids come in, and it was for 7 days. So every day I would go and check the bids, and I remember they went all the way to $32. And for me, I was rich. That was the most money, and I was 5. And I remember from that moment I was hooked into, okay, I'm going to go and sell things.
So please tell me you're taking your big wheel to somebody's house to deliver the Batman and Robin, or how did that go?
No, I shipped it.
That's awesome. Thank you, Lexi, for sharing that. So as you can tell, my guest today is Lexi Kaz. She is a publisher. She's also got her own agency for PR, and she's only 23 years old. So I want to make sure we hit that topic pretty quick. She's the author of 18 books, and including at least 5 bestsellers. We've got one of them here showing off. You Will Rock as a Dad. We're going to get into that as well. And she's got a massive following on Instagram and TikTok. Lexi Kaz, welcome to Unlocking Moves.
Thank you, Kurt. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to get into your story because I know I went back to the Lego days when you were 5 and 8, but it probably really starts a little bit later. As I understand it, you were a college Division I soccer player.
Yeah.
You dropped out of school. I don't want to play super spoiler, but tell me a little bit about those early days, the school days during COVID and all that entails.
Yeah, so I graduated high school in 2020, and as all of us had our own experiences during COVID, I went into, first I earned a Division I scholarship to play soccer at the University of San Diego, And I was so proud of that because I was the first person in my family to play college sports, let alone the D1 level. And so that was my path. I wanted to become a pro soccer player. But then when COVID hit, things changed.
So
And
hey, let's stop there
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
second because things change for everybody. But you,
Yeah.
right now, we're filming from Texas, from Austin, Texas. You grew up in Southern California.
Yeah.
So quite a different COVID experience for California than Texas.
100%. Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that because everything for me, I did 1 year of university, but everything was online. To this day, I've still never had an in-person college class. And so that dream of wanting to play pro soccer quickly changed because I grew unhappy. And I remember my mom would always say, play until you're not enjoying it anymore. And that kind of is what happened because of all the circumstances of how California was so restricted. And, I didn't have an in-person class. We did have a season, but things changed because of where I was, when it happened. And I know that I probably would have stayed and played if COVID didn't happen.
So in a way, COVID was a positive experience for you because it changed your life in such a way that you launched onto your future as opposed to holding on to your past.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm very grateful looking back now that it did happen. I have some moments where I wish there were fans. I would have definitely ate that up because I loved that environment. And I grew up I went to a small high school. And so when I first had that taste of college experience, the potential to have fans and a stadium, that was part of my excitement. But it definitely happened exactly as it was meant to because now I am where I am here.
I love that mantra. It happened exactly as it was meant to. We're going to get into that too. But let's talk a bit about what happened next. Because as I understand it, you did drop out of school and you went and lived maybe an adventure. Maybe you had to find yourself. Maybe you did whatever you did. Tell me what happened next because you ended up in Hawaii, as I understand. Today's episode is brought to you by Chinook Seedery, the best sunflower seeds ever. Available online at ChinookSeedery.com and Amazon or wherever you get your seeds, including Buc-ee's, Dick's Sporting Goods, Shields, Love's Travel Stops, Circle K, and thousands of other locations around the country.
There was a couple months where I was a camp counselor because, I loved kids, I loved sports, and I kept trying to give myself permission to not have it all figured out because for my whole life, or from middle school to high school, which felt like my whole life, I was going to be a college soccer player. I committed in my junior year of high school to play soccer. So I knew what the next, 4, 5, 6 years would be, or I thought I did. But anyways, I ended up being a camp counselor for a little bit, reading books, trying to figure out what I would do with my life. And I started to look online ways to make money because I had always been an entrepreneur on the side when I wasn't playing soccer, selling.
You were selling Legos at 5 years old.
Exactly. I was selling Legos, Lego people. I was selling iPhones, as you mentioned, would go to Craigslist and, search up iPhones and specific versions. And it had to be, I knew all the intricate details, but quickly there were a lot of scams. So I had to stop doing that. But long story short, I always loved selling things. And it was how I made money during high school. I sold stuff on eBay and Depop, so I didn't have to work a job. That was my job.
Wait, can we pause here for a
yeah.
second? Because earlier you were telling me that you and your aunt would go dumpster diving.
Yes, we would.
Go to yard sales, go to auctions, whatever, finding stuff to sell. That fascinates me. So tell me a little bit more about that. And again, you're 7 and 8 years old, like dumpster diving with your aunt. There's nothing. I can just see the picture.
Yeah. My mom will still joke about it to this day because I love doing it. Like, I think looking back, one of my favorite parts was the journey of finding something. And I still love that now and I need to remind myself of that now. It's different stakes, different versions of that. But I loved being able to go into a flea market and not know what I was going to end up finding. And I would go to these flea markets or garage sales, auctions. We did do auctions too, storage auctions as well, like Storage Wars.
Oh, nice.
And I would just pull out my phone on eBay and search things up. And it was an adventure. Yeah. But anyways, jumping back to COVID, I'm that camp counselor and I look up on my laptop one day, how to make money online. I knew I wanted to get back into that. And so I ended up finding a course that taught me how to self-publish.
So when you went to Hawaii, as I understand it, you tried farming, you did some camping, you did
Yeah.
some ag. Tell me about that.
Yes. So Hawaii was great because it was a stepping stone. It was a gap year program. So it was a 6 weeks on the Big Island, which is amazing. It was with a group of, I want to say, 8 other people. We had 2 instructors. And, now that I'm describing it, sounds like a summer camp. And it really was amazing. It was a perfect stepping stone into traveling by myself because I love traveling now. And being able to take that program where we did do farming and agriculture and we learned more about Hawaii. And we camped and we stayed in hostels and things I'd camped before, but I hadn't stayed in a hostel. I didn't even know what a hostel was until I started to do these things that opened up my mind and allowed me to think bigger about the world because there was so much more to explore.
Nice. So as I mentioned before, you are a best-selling author, which obviously isn't hard to do because I've done it, but you've done it many, many times over. So tell me about that. You obviously transitioned. You took a publishing online course.
Yes.
And then now you're a best-selling author. Tell me about that journey.
Yeah. So that's an awesome one. And I love to share it because I dropped out of college. I had no skills of writing a book at the time. I didn't even know where to start. And I think that's the biggest challenge for most people is like, I would love to write a book in my life, but where the heck do I start? And so this course, I bought this course from publishing.com. Those guys are amazing. I've learned so much from them, the Mickelson twins. And they basically opened up my eyes to the fact that anyone can publish a book. They just need to know where to start and how to do it. And so the course teaches you that there's this platform inside of Amazon. I didn't know this, so I think I could say that maybe it's safe to say that most people didn't know Amazon started as a bookstore. It was made to sell books. And so inside of Amazon, there's this platform called KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing, and it's a print-on-demand model. And I say it's the best model in the world because you don't need to come up with inventory up front. You don't have to invest thousands of dollars up front. You need to make a free KDP account. You need to come up with a title, a manuscript, a cover, a description.
You make it sound easy. There's a lot that goes in that manuscript.
Okay, there is. But what I'm trying to say is that is hard work. And the actual action of uploading and publishing is easier than I thought. So I spent 7 months on this first book. And so I definitely spent my time researching and studying and finding a perfect author and doing all of the things that you need to do to make a successful book. But I do think it's important to say that it unlocked for me that I can do this over and over and over again with any book that I want to write because Amazon prints it for me. And that was one of the best parts of the entire program.
So you don't have to buy 10,000 copies.
Exactly.
You can print as people buy them.
Yes,
Yeah.
with KDP. But yes, down the line, I have purchased some copies, which we've talked about. But yes, with Amazon, that's the most attractive part to me is there's a lot of people selling courses, how to make money online, how to build passive income. But this really is because you don't need to invest thousands of dollars a month on inventory. You need to do the work to make it good. But then once you upload it, Amazon will print it and market it for you.
I love it. So first of all, I want to talk about this book for a second.
Yeah.
And then also the hat you're wearing
Yes.
is YWR,
Yeah.
You Will Rock Books is your name of your company. Mm-hmm. And this book is entitled You Will Rock as a Dad. So a couple of observations. First of all, I want you to tell me about the book. Second of all, you're not a dad. Third of all, that's true. So tell me how you came up with the concept and how you ended up writing the book.
Yeah.
I'll let you hold it if you'd like to show this.
No, thank you. No, yeah, I think it's funny because whenever anyone asks me what I do, before I wrote these other books, before these books were published, because I always like to reframe it as some of the books I write, some of the books I work with authors for, but I'm the publisher. And so before I published before I published those, when people would ask me, what do you do? I would say, I publish books for first-time pregnancy for fathers. And they'd be like, what? And so, that is what I do. But essentially, there's a lot that goes in it. The program, the course that publishing.com I invested in, they're a model of how you can find a winning keyword, because that's what it was. To me, when it first started, it was, how can I find a winning keyword that is undersaturated on Amazon, but there's a demand for it?
So there weren't many books out there about being a first-time dad.
Yep.
but there was also wasn't there was a demand, but not any other books.
Exactly.
So you latched onto it. I love it.
Yeah. So exactly that. I did a lot of research on my pool was from nonfiction. Like I looked in the pool of nonfiction words or keywords, topics. I looked at keto diet, how to lose weight. Yoga for seniors is a really popular one. That's super saturated now, so you can't do that. But first time pregnancy for fathers, I don't know why that popped into my mind, but it did. And I looked it up, and the formula that they had taught me proved that there was an opportunity for me to come in to the market as a self-publisher. So that was the first step. The first step of starting the process was identifying a winning keyword. And so that was my first winning keyword. And then from there, I did tons of research on there were some other books, but there really wasn't a lot. But I had something to work with of what are the reviews saying? What do people like about this book? What do they not like about these books? What do they wish were not a part of them? What do they wish it had? And so that's my protocol now with any book that I do, figuring out what customers already are talking about. And I think it's so simple, but anytime I do it, I find so much value in it because people tell you what they like and what they don't like. So that was the second part of the process.
So when you first started, you needed to find keywords that there was a need for, but they weren't being served. And then you started building up a platform of people that could give you responses to what they wanted out of that. Now you've got, I don't remember the number, but a very large number of followers that you can ask them those questions now. What do you want to see next?
Yes.
So you're asking your audience what they need to see next, not only as a topic, but also the types of ideas within the topic.
Yeah, that is the next phase. Definitely with this series, because I've had some other series as well, but definitely with these that I know we've talked about is I need to ask my customers more and get back to that. The roots of how this started was just figuring out what people liked and didn't like of the already existing books on the market and then making it better and adding the name You Will Rock to that. I also don't know. I wish I had a cooler story of like, I've had this name lined up for years and years, but I don't know how I came up with the You Will Rock because now that's my company name. But I do think that it's great because it allows me to expand to You Will Rock as a chef, a gardener, a mom, anything. That's the progression of where I want to take the business is doing more info guides.
That's awesome. And as we were on our way over here, Lexi was sharing with me some stories, some lessons learned. And I just have to remind her, you're 23 years old and you're not going to know everything and you're learning and iterating along the way. So actually, I wanted to come back to a point you made earlier when you said that you are where you are. And there's a reason for the lessons that you've learned, which is a very powerful and very mature statement. But let's talk about that a little bit. And then I have another question that takes us even further back. So tell me a little bit about that because I believe in that same mantra.
Yeah, I think that's a great question because recently, one of the biggest lessons that I learned was there will always be people that try and copy or not even try, but do copy your ideas, especially, I know you shared something similar where they might make a You Will Rock as a dad to be, or, people will take your ideas and make their own versions of it. And that has definitely been something that a muscle I've been developing of letting roll off my back because it's also a compliment in a sense of they see your success and they want to make their own. Yeah. And then I believe another great lesson that I learned is success comes from within. I know I shared that with you a couple hours ago, but I experienced a lot of growth these past couple of months, specifically with my newest books. And I had an expectation of what I believed these past 30 days would be based off of that growth, and that expectation didn't happen. And I was feeling down for a little bit because of that. And I opened up The Secret, one of my favorite books, and the line in there said, success comes from within. And I felt it was a perfect timing read because I needed to hear that in terms of, one, remember why I'm doing this. For me, I want to build the most giftable books in the world. That's my vision. That's my mission because I feel like it's part of my life mission and I enjoy it. And I love the fact that these books help people. I've read the reviews. We get some nasty reviews, but we also get some amazing ones where women will comment that their husbands are more supportive. They understand what she goes through now a little bit better. Chapter 2 is called Support Her. And that's one of my favorite chapters because she's carrying a child for 9 months. The least, he can do is learn how to support her better. And so that's something I needed to remind myself is I get to take charge of my thoughts, my feelings, and what I define as success, not an external outcome.
That is very powerful. Success comes from within, from the book, The Secret.
Yes, highly recommend.
Awesome. So let me take one more step back because we talked earlier about your life after college, and it is college grad season, and the number of people I get asking me for advice for their kid, like who can they talk to help them find a job or find a career or whatever, is off the charts. And so I have some go-to answers that I have, but I'd love to hear from you because you said you don't go into college, or you shouldn't go into college knowing all the answers, although colleges want us to know exactly what we're going to do with the rest of our lives. But in your case, you dropped out. I'm not saying one way is better than the other, but we still have to figure out our own path.
Yes.
So give me some thoughts, knowing that it's, let's say, college grad or college intern season.
Yeah.
Some thoughts you might give people as far as advice.
Yeah. I think one you shared earlier as well, I'll double down on, is you can't be afraid of rejection. Like, I go back to my first business, which was my PR agency, and I had no clients for 6 months. I had over 200 calls. Now, looking back, I definitely could have changed some things to have more success, but I wasn't afraid of rejection. I knew, coming from my athlete mentality, that if I did something long enough, with enough iterations and enough reps, I would find a way and I would get better. And I feel like for a lot of people, because I'm a twin and my twin sister did graduate actually last weekend as well.
Nice.
And yes, congrats to her. And
her name is Grace.
Grace, yes, shout out Grace. She'll like this. I feel there's a lot of pressure on people graduating school to know exactly what they're supposed to be. But that's why I felt my gap year was so powerful to me, is because it gave me permission to not know what to do, to enjoy, to not be afraid of rejection if I wanted to try something and it didn't work out. And I would also recommend, if you can, to take a gap year or to give yourself a gap semester, a gap month, just permission to let things unfold and try new things, because I think a lot of people rush to live their adult life after college, just because I've seen it with the class that I would have graduated in, and I've talked about it with my sister. When I am the same age as them, but I do feel I'm 3 years older in a sense, or 4 years older, just because I've actually been able to be an adult in a different environment than the rest of my peers. And so that's the best thing I would say, is I'm still figuring it out. I'll always be figuring it out, but I'm always finding a way, because I give myself permission to try things and allow it to be okay if it doesn't work out.
That is sage advice, Lexi. You're figuring it out. You're never, ever going to solve it. You're always figuring it out, and have permission to make mistakes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Let's go. So let's talk a little bit about your other books. So the book that you just wrote is entitled You Rock Mom.
My Mom Rocks.
My Mom Rocks.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's right there.
You got it. Let's track it down.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's, we'll stack these. Yeah. So this one's tons of lessons in this one as well. I wrote this book for my mom. I wanted to give her something for her birthday last October. And I knew my sister couldn't do this, because I had learned these skills. I had, acquired this skill set to be able to do it. I knew that it would be something unique. No one had written a book for her before. I think it's a very special thing to do for someone. And so I decided to write her a book, which this book has 101 different prompts. And I know we were chatting about it earlier. I have called it at times like the Mad Libs for this new generation, Mad Libs that you fill out and give to your mom. And so this book has been great because it's had fast success, but also challenges along the way as well that I've learned, because it's different than a how-to guide. Because in the publishing world, this is considered low content because it's less than 30,000 words. And this, Your Rock's Dad, is considered high content, 30,000 words. So they're different. They're different animals. And I'm glad that I done it, because success comes from within, and I've been able to see the impact it's had with moms, and my mom specifically. But it's a different animal than the 30,000 word.
Okay. So several of these are bestsellers. You've got a secret to how that works. Tell me a little bit about that, because I know that you've solved some of the TikTok riddle and the other ways that you're getting the word out there to buy your book. Tell us a little bit about your branding strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. So my business grew. I'll jump back. I only had Your Rock's Dad and one book published for all of 2023. So I only had one book. I launched at end of 2022, November, December, and then all of 23, I only had one book. So that was the one source of revenue. At the time, I was still working on my PR agency as my main focus. But then start of 2024, I was like, wait a second, why don't I just do more books? I would make more. I would impact more lives that way. And I have so much fun doing it. So then in 2024, I started to launch more books. And then it wasn't until end of 2024 that I launched My Mom Rocks. And the biggest catalyst to my growth has been TikTok, specifically TikTok Shop, because it's kind of like a startup. They're almost 2 years old. It's brand new. TikTok isn't new, but TikTok Shop is brand new. They move so fast, so quickly. Things change. But the best part about TikTok Shop is their affiliate program. So inside of TikTok Shop, they have millions of affiliates. I believe it's millions now, where people post, you send them products, they post videos, they tag the products, and then they get a commission for every sale that they make. And that has been, I know I said it, but I'll say it again, just the catalyst of my growth, because I've been able to create virality and create this traffic from scaling with creators who are affiliates of my product. And then they also drive traffic to Amazon, where all my books are.
And you have 5,000 affiliates,
Yes.
as I understand it. So these are content creators making promos for you, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's a mix of, I would say the majority are My Mom Rocks and You'll Rock's a Dad, because I don't have all my books on TikTok Shop, because I know that there's I like to call it a spillover effect, where there's still a large number of buyers who don't know what TikTok Shop is. They're just on TikTok. They see a product. They don't know they can actually buy it from the video. Instead, they go to Amazon, they search it, and we're getting almost around 2,000 searches a month for the pregnancy guide, and also around 2,000 for the mom book. And so without saying Amazon once in any of the videos. So it's just people inherently go to Amazon because they trust it more. TikTok's the wild, wild west, and Amazon is stable and been around.
Wow, that's awesome. And so can you tell me how many books you sell a month? I know you've told me privately. Is that something we can share?
Yeah, so around 15,000.
15,000 books a month. Are you kidding me? That's amazing.
Thank you. No, it's wild to me as well, because like I said, I only had one book for a year and 2 months. And it wasn't until, so there's this book he has a book that's not a pregnancy guide, but it's a book you gift to your dad. And so last Father's Day, I'm sorry, out of nowhere, he became the #1 bestseller in all of Amazon, the #1 ranked book in the world. And I always get a spike for Father's Day for You'll Rock's a Dad, but not the #1 bestseller in the world. And I was perplexed. I had no idea how he was able to do this, because I knew my competition, but I didn't know what he was doing. I happened to figure it out the month later after Father's Day ended, but I realized he was on TikTok Shop. And that's when I put my mind, I promised myself I would figure out how in the world he was able to do that. I'm still finding the way, but I feel as though I've unlocked the affiliate angle, where you just scale with creators who post content for your book, because I do believe that's where the consumer purchasing generation is going, is buying through scrolling, because you can do it anywhere, any place.
Wow. That's, first of all, you're leveraging ideas from your competitors.
Yes.
And obviously they're doing the same thing. They're leveraging things from you. And I want to talk about this creator economy.
Okay.
Because I know it's relatively new, I'll say, but there's a lot of good people doing good work with it. Tell me about that and tell me your thoughts on it.
Yeah. The creator economy, I believe, is, if not the most arbitrage opportunity now, it will be. No, I definitely believe it is now. I think it's important to say that it's not influencers. I know some people will ask me, so you have 5,000 influencers promoting your books? No, I might have one that has a large following, but that just happened by proxy because he's also an affiliate. But creators, to me, how I would define them, are people who know how to make videos go viral. They don't necessarily have hundreds of thousands of followers. Some of these creators have 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 200,000. It depends. But the thing about TikTok and why I feel it's so disruptive compared to the other social media platforms out there is you don't need to have a large following for a video to go viral. And so that's why I believe, especially if you're a direct to consumer brand, or if you have a book, you can market people that much easier, because not only you can, which is what I did at first. I opened up my camera and just recorded videos. I wanted to prove it to myself, and I also wanted to prove it to the creators that, hey, this product sells. But you also have people who make a full-time income now being creators on TikTok because they're making affiliate commissions through the product sales. So it's such a win-win situation.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I can't wait to do a video with you where we promote what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Can I be an affiliate?
Yes, I would love that.
I've got tens, if not dozens of followers. So we'll be in
Amazing.
great shape. So this is a great segue to talk about my book,
Yes.
which you're going to help me promote. It's called Who's Your Mic? And it's a business book for people who hate business books. Everybody knows that it's really about the employees you're going to have on your entrepreneurial journey. But I'd love to hear, I know you have a copy of it. I'd love to hear your favorite character from the book.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when we were chatting earlier, who's your mic? I think, the
title character, Mike?
Yeah, like the one that grabs your attention in the book for me, or the one that grabbed mine, was Mike, because I don't believe I have it in this business. Eventually I probably will. But in my first business, I hired my friends. To make them actually affiliates. I didn't know they were affiliates at the time. I just said, hey, if you find me a deal, you get a commission. So it was a similar model, but looking back, I knew I had to learn by doing and by trying. And so I'm glad I did, as the theme of what we've been saying. But that is a character I felt aligned with right away, just because I know it's important to not let my emotions about a person get clouded by what's best for the business.
Yeah, that happens a lot. You have a loyalty to somebody because they're a family member or a friend, or because they've been with you for a long time. You tend to overlook the challenges at work.
Yep.
Nice. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
All right. I'm at the point of the show where I want to talk about your unlocking move.
Okay.
And these, again, are key pivotal moments or decision points that change your life, change your trajectory of your career. Can you think of a couple that I can think of a couple based on our conversations, but yeah, tell me what you're thinking.
Yeah. I think the first one was dropping out, for sure, because no part of me, I never let the thought even cross my mind about leaving my soccer scholarship, all the years I had poured into becoming the athlete that I was. But the universe and COVID and my life had other plans. And yet I'm so grateful that it happened, because I wouldn't be where I am today. And I feel I have gained so much knowledge because of that situation. And so, yeah, I'm grateful that happened, because it led me to every lesson that has come now. Yeah, that would be the first one.
Okay.
But I think I do have a couple other ones actually recently, if I could share with that. The most recent one, I believe, was actually like the past 30 days that, we've been chatting about privately, but I let an external outcome kind of cloud my feelings about a situation. I was so focused on, it has to be this way, this is what we're going to do with my books, that I kind of lost sight of the fact of why I was doing it. And so the unlocking move in that was that success comes from within, and I feel that much more empowered, and I feel I have ownership again, or I feel in alignment with what I'm doing again that much more, because I'm motivated to get back to why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it's always been to be the most giftable books in the world, which therefore mean you feel a connection to somebody else. And I had to remind myself of that is why I wrote this book for my mom, because it was to make her feel loved. And so that reminder of finding the success within was a huge unlocking move for me.
So let's stick on that for a second, because it is very important.
Yeah.
Success comes from within. It's a very powerful quote. It's also it's a feeling of what's important to you, sticking to your why, as you said, your purpose. And when you start thinking about outside factors, whether it's social media, your friends, family, whatever, you start trying to please the wrong audience, and you want to try to satisfy yourself.
Yeah.
For success. That's very important for people, especially in this generation of social media likes, to remember. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Do you have any recently that you would say would be an unlocking move for you?
Unlocking move for me? The big one was during COVID when I started. I'm an introvert at heart,
Really?
Which most people don't think that.
Yeah.
Because I can turn it on and be outgoing and vivacious or whatever. but I was always an introvert. And then COVID, I started doing these CEO forums to gather people to learn and leverage, during COVID. And then I started doing LinkedIn Lives, which was, communicating to a broader audience and talk about putting yourself out there
Yeah.
to a live audience.
Yep.
And I scared the hell out of my kids a couple of times with some of the topics we were talking about. And then I moved it into the podcast when that had kind of run its course.
Yeah.
And it's been fun. I've had so much fun, some amazing conversations. The reason we were connected was because you saw the episode I did right here with the Ellsworth, Stephen and Allison Ellsworth, founders of Poppy. And I think just putting myself out there has been amazing. And I'm not trying to sell 1 million copies of a book or sell ads on my podcast. I'm really doing it because it's fun, and I'm really getting to touch people with the stories we're relaying. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I feel like it relates to what I'm doing too, because as I asked you earlier, if it fills your cup, then keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, having conversations like this with you, we never would have had this before.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have connected.
Yep.
You found me, you reached out to me after that episode, which is great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope it's going to be either your or my next unlocking move where we connected. And it's just been fun just meeting so many amazing people. Okay. So I consider myself the listener's advocate.
Okay.
If I've got a one-on-one conversation opportunity with Lexi Kaz, what would I want Kurt to ask? What would I want to be thinking? And so my question for you is, tell me, you built an amazing strategy for the TikTok world and for getting your books out to folks. Tell me some good marketing tips for your brand or your books or your whatever, however you want to promote yourself. 2 to 3 things I can take home today.
Yeah. I think there are 2 that come to mind right away. The first one would be figure out affiliates. I know that it might sound, I'd always heard of affiliates before, but really it wasn't until TikTok and TikTok Shop that I dove into it. So if you have a physical product, whether it can be any size, I would get on TikTok Shop and dive into their affiliate program because they have it all set up there. But if you don't have a physical consumer product, then I still would figure out affiliates, because I know Hormozy calls them lead getters. And so, in theory, I have 5,000 lead getters. So if I don't post a video for the next couple of days, I will still have people generating leads for me. And the reason why it's so attractive is because they make money if they make a sale, and we make money if they make a sale. So it's a win-win. It's one of the best win-win situations I've discovered in my business. So that would be the first one. I would say the second one is asking your customers what they want and what they don't want. And I've had to learn that the hard way in some situations with my newest book, because we have had some competitors that, have done it a different way based off of what customers have wanted. I don't regret anything. I know, again, I did it for my mom, and that's why I started it. But it was such a good lesson for me to never forget that I need to research and ask people, is 101 prompts, is that too much for you? Is that more than enough? Is that perfect? Do you like the cover? Do you want the font to be bigger? What type of prompts do you want it to be? So asking questions like that, and not just prompts and not just in a book, but for any offer, that has been such a good reminder for me with this, because that's how I believe You Will Rock's Dad has been as successful as it is because I did 7 months of research compiled into making the book.
It sounds like very simple advice. Understand the affiliate program, and then ask your competitors or your market. Do some market research.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds pretty simple.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
It is.
Okay. So Lexi, I want to flip the script. I've asked you a lot of questions about how I can make my my whatever I do more active for the younger audience, whatever. Flip it around. What kind of questions do you have for me?
Good question. What would you tell your younger self?
Ooh, advice for your younger self. Okay, let's go. First of all, you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And you're not alone when you make those mistakes. Anybody who tells you they got it figured out is full of shit. So know that.
Yeah.
I would say in the early days, you, yourself, and the people around you need to be generalists, doing a lot of everything. And you've got to be scrappy and get by. As you start to grow and become more of a mature business, people have to start finding folks that are in specific lanes. So somebody who's really strong at digital marketing or author aggregation or affiliate, whatever. And that's okay. And you're going to outgrow some members of your team, which is exactly what Who's Your Mic, a lot of it's about.
Yeah. I think that's great. Because I know that it's always a good reminder, especially with what I've shared with you about some of the mistakes I've made, Do you have any mistakes that you feel were some of the most painful, but also you found the most blessings out of?
So I've got two that I want that I'm thinking of right off the bat.
Uh-huh.
One of them relates to yours. You said competitors are stealing some ideas from you. And we had early on in my consulting business, we had basically someone steal a client. And at first I was pissed. And then over time we realized, great, because now those guys are going to be so solely focused on that one pain in the ass client. They can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Allowed us to rise and go to a bunch of other clients and sell. At the time it was Sarbanes-Oxley Consulting, and we grew to 110 or so professionals.
Wow.
And they were out of business as soon as that client ended. So that's one.
Yeah.
It's okay when you lose. It just opens up another door.
Can I ask, how long, though, did it take for you to walk through that first initial pain and then shift your attitude?
I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing, so it didn't take me long to just shift my focus. Now, if the name comes up, I still might have a little bit of frustration, but I'm much better off.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing. So not very long. If you let it take hold and just let it eat you up, it's going to eat you up. And you're not going to be able to do anything positive.
Yep.
So the other one that comes up is in the genre of bad hiring or waiting too long to make the termination.
Yeah.
I like to joke, our company is called HireBetter, but sometimes it should be called FireBetter.
Yeah.
Because so many people need to be better at terminating folks and moving on. Rarely do you look back and say, I wish I hadn't fired that. I wish I had fired that person sooner, is what people usually come up with.
Yep.
Employees you held on to too long.
Yeah. No, I think
Great
that's
question. You need to start a podcast.
No, I cannot do that.
Absolutely you could. But there's more money in books than there is in
Maybe
podcasts.
one day, yeah. That'd be awesome.
Unless I can become an affiliate. Can I become an
You can
affiliate?
be an affiliate for
All right,
sure.
let's
I
go.
would
Sign
love
me up.
that.
Sign me up. Okay, so I've got one more question. It's kind of a trick question. But tell me one question you're never asked, and either you wish they would ask you, or you're secretly glad that they don't.
Ooh, that's a really good question. I like that I think it'd be nice if people dug maybe a little deeper into why I left school. I know that I say that it's because I was unhappy, so it might just be plain and simple. But I also believe that there's a lot more. I really pivoted my path. I was playing Division I soccer. I earned a scholarship. I wanted to be pro. And so I think there's a lot there in terms of a lot of strings were pulling at me to leave. And it took a lot for me to leave. And maybe even for my own sake of unlocking why I really left would be fun to dissect now that I'm past it.
Let's go. We're going to play psychotherapist right here, baby. All right. So even the way you said, I can sense some like, gosh, dog, I lost my dream. So tell me why.
Yeah.
We're going to play the 6 why game where I
Okay.
could just ask you why over and over again.
That's fine. I think deep down I really was unhappy, but my brain didn't want to give up on my dream at the time. But I feel like there's always a force that will push you in a direction. The universe, God, I believe in both. But I feel that both of those forces were at play in that situation because I did not want to leave, but I also was so miserable. Like the saddest I've been just because of the circumstances. And I wasn't also physically prepared for that level. Like I didn't really train well, wasn't fit enough. And so looking back at all these external factors that were internally hurting me, but I believe it was the universe that really was like, you have to leave. Because I remember where I was with my mom. We were in Miami and we were eating breakfast and I just started to cry. My sister left and I just started to cry and she's like, what's wrong? And I was like, I don't want to go back to school. And my mom knew because I would share everything with her. But I feel in that moment, I kind of just let myself feel what I had been holding. And, I think it was a great lesson though for me that I have to listen to what my gut is saying because it was saying it all along.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. There's a reason for everything, as you said, and the obstacle is the way.
Yes.
We talked about earlier.
Yep.
And I think you've proven that it was the right move and the universe and God was leading you in the right direction.
Thank you.
So thank you. I do actually have one more question that we talked about slightly a little bit earlier pre-recording, and that is your unhealthy obsession with coffee. and taking pictures of coffee. Tell me a little bit about that.
Did I call it unhealthy or did you call it
I called it unhealthy.
Okay. No, that's funny. I don't drink alcohol. So I think my biggest addiction or obsession would be caffeine, maybe because I don't really veer off to anything else. So that's probably why I joked about it. But I also do feel that whenever I travel anywhere, because I love to travel, and that's also been one of the most beautiful parts of my business is the points I'm accumulating. And so I actually hired a credit card coach 2 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And she built out a whole credit card. Like I have 11 credit cards because she built out a whole game plan for me on how to hit sign-up bonuses and collect points and book business class flights on points. And I was like 19 and she was teaching me all this stuff. It was the best money I've ever spent.
That's awesome.
But I bring that up because I love whenever I travel to a new place, trying the coffee, and I feel more connected to the place, the culture, and trying new things. But I wanted to ask you also, before I forgot, that really good question you asked me about, is there a question that you kind of hope people ask but also don't want them to ask?
That's a great question. It's a tough one too, right?
It is,
And I don't think I'm prepared for it. So I do want to tell a story about coffee. So maybe I'll use that as a crutch
Yeah.
here. You know, I'll go with this because I think it's really poignant. And that is, I like to ask people questions. I don't like it when it's turned back around. If I'm at a dinner party, I'm there and I'm like, tell me more. And they start asking me questions. I don't really want to answer your question. So it's probably some fear of being found out, some imposter syndrome of, what are you really thinking or whatever. So, it's interesting that you asked me such a great question.
No,
So-
but that's fair.
Really quick story on coffee though. When I first launched my first company, I had a client actually happened to be in Thailand. And so we're in Thailand for like 3 or 4 weeks of work. And every day at like 10 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, some little Thai girls would bring you coffee.
Oh.
And it was just a cute little thing. But that was their whole job, right? But it was amazing coffee. And it was such a nice thing to have every day at 10 and 2. And so we're nearing the end of our project. And I was like, I've got to understand where this coffee is from because I want to bring it home and share it with the world. And it's this amazing Thai coffee. And so I said, you got to tell me where it's from. And she goes back and she comes back 5 minutes later very proudly with a jar of Taster's Choice freeze-dried coffee. It's just amazing context. I was thinking it's something exotic, but because I was in an exotic phase, and it was just crap that you can buy at any grocery store.
That's so funny. No, but that's funny you say that because I feel if the setting is right and the glassware is nice and it's on a pretty plate, I will believe if you tell me it's from, halfway across the world.
Exactly. Well, hey, Lexi, where else can we find some information about you? What kind of Instagram or TikTok? Where's the best place to find you?
Yeah. So my Instagram is just Lexi Kaz, but Kazz, 2 Z's.
Okay.
Someone took the 1 Z, which is how you spell my last name. And then You Will Rock Books is our TikTok where I am posting, and I work with creators as well, and I post their content on there. And then youwillrock.com is where we have all of our books and on Amazon and as well as TikTok for my personal Lexi Kaz.
Awesome. And I noticed you've got a large number of followers on LinkedIn, which is pretty amazing too.
Thank you.
Like 8,700 or 1,000?
Probably 8,700.
It's more than me, which
Thank
is
you.
Pisses me off because I should have a bigger LinkedIn audience than you do.
Thank you.
Well, hey, on that note, we're going to wrap this puppy up. Lexi, thank you so much for joining me on Unlocking Moves. I'm going to ask the audience and also ask you to please go like and subscribe wherever you consume your podcast, on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, whatever. So thank you, Lexi, for joining me on Unlocking Moves.
Thank you, Kurt. It was a pleasure.